I stood frozen in the living room, my heart racing as I felt a cold breeze brush past me. The front door swung open slowly, creaking against the worn wood frame, yet I was certain I had locked it after entering. It was just past midnight on Halloween, and I could hear the faint echo of children laughing outside, oblivious to the horror I was about to confront. The empty house felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. 3 weeks earlier, I had moved into the house on Thornhill Road. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of falling leaves as I unloaded my belongings. It was my first place away from the bustle of college life, and I relished the thought of independence. The neighborhood was quiet, with trees lining the streets and porch lights flickering against the backdrop of the night sky. Somehow, everything felt perfect, almost too perfect. My landlord was an elderly woman named Mrs. Hargrove. She had a warm smile and a kind demeanor, which made the leasing process easy. The house was older, with creaky floorboards and faded wallpaper, but it had character. I loved the way the sunlight streamed through the kitchen window in the morning, illuminating the dust particles that danced in the air, but Mrs. Hargrove did mention one peculiar thing during our tour. She warned me to be cautious of wandering outside at night. "You never know what might be lurking in the shadows," she said cryptically. The first few nights were peaceful. I immersed myself in unpacking, filling the shelves with books and hanging pictures of family and friends. However, as the dusk fell each evening, an unsettling stillness enveloped the house. It was on the fourth night when I first heard it, a low whisper echoing through the hallway. I brushed it off as my imagination, but the sound grew louder, wrapping around me like a cold fog. I convinced myself it was just the wind. As the days turned into weeks, I noticed other oddities. Objects went missing or were moved from their places, and sometimes I could have sworn I felt a pair of eyes watching me from the corner of the room. I laughed nervously, blaming it on being alone too much. But then the dreams started, vivid and terrifying visions of dark figures standing at the foot of my bed, their features obscured by a cloak of darkness. When I woke up, drenched in sweat, I found my bedroom door slightly ajar, though I was sure I had closed it tight before falling asleep. One particularly chilly evening, I decided to host a small gathering with a few friends to help break the creeping silence. As we laughed and shared stories over cups of hot cider, I tried to ignore the chilling draft that swept through the house, sending shivers down my spine. Just as I began to relax, the lights flickered erratically and the laughter faded. "Is this house even safe?" one friend joked, but the unease crept back in, filling the room like thick smoke. I tried to shake it off, pouring another mug of cider and forcing a smile. After everyone left, I felt a strange heaviness settle back in the house. The sudden quiet felt suffocating, like a weight pressing down on my chest. I decided to make a snack before heading to bed, unaware that I was not truly alone. As I reached for a bowl, a crash echoed from the basement, a sound sharp enough to make me jump. I paused, gripping the countertop, my heart pounding in my ears. What was down there, and why did it feel like it was calling to me? Summoning my courage, I grabbed a flashlight and crept toward the basement stairs, each step echoing in the silence. The air was thick with musty smells, and cobwebs hung like curtains in the dim light. I hesitated at the top of the stairs, my heart racing as I called out, "Hello? Is anyone down there?" The only response was the faint dripping of water somewhere in the darkness. I cursed myself for being so foolish, but curiosity got the better of me, and I descended slowly. When I reached the bottom, the flashlight beam illuminated old crates and boxes stacked haphazardly. I scanned the area, my pulse quickening at every tiny sound. The room felt off, as if it were alive with secrets. It was then that I noticed something on the wall, a series of scratches, deep and jagged. I pushed closer, the light revealing what looked like names etched into the wood. Clara, Jess, Tom. I stumbled backward, realizing they were previous tenant names. Fear gripped my heart as I turned to leave, but a whisper echoed in the still air, sending chills down my spine. "Stay, don't leave yet." I spun around, the beam flickering wildly as if something were obstructing the light. Panic surged within me. I raced back up the stairs, the darkness clawing at my heels. I slammed the basement door shut behind me, breathing heavily, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been watching me from the shadows. In the following days, I tried to rationalize what had happened. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me after the stress of moving. But as nights grew darker, the energy in the house shifted. It became oppressive, suffocating. One night, while brushing my teeth, I caught a glimpse of movement in the mirror. A shadow flickered behind me, making my stomach drop. I whipped around, but the bathroom was empty, the door securely shut. Shivering, I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination once more. Then it happened. I woke up one night to the sound of my door creaking open. My heart raced as I lay still beneath the covers, pretending to be asleep. I could hear soft footsteps approaching, almost hesitant. The air felt charged with tension, and when I mustered the courage to peek, a figure loomed beside my bed. dark and indistinct, almost blending into the shadows. I fought the urge to scream, frozen in terror as it leaned closer. I finally gathered enough strength to bolt upright, but the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. The room felt colder, and I could see my breath in the air. I frantically turned on lights, my heart racing in my chest. The shadows retreated as light filled the room, yet an unsettling stillness replaced them. I felt as though the house was holding its breath, waiting for my next move. I had to leave. There was no other option. The next morning, I packed my essentials with trembling hands, constantly glancing over my shoulder. As I placed my belongings into the car, I noticed a black cat watching me from the edge of the yard. It sat perfectly still, its yellow eyes piercing through the gloom. I felt an odd connection with it, but I didn't linger. I had to get away. As I started the car, I caught a glimpse of Mrs. Hargrove peering out from her window, a knowing expression on her face. I could almost hear her whispering, "You shouldn't have stayed." The drive away from Thornhill Road felt surreal, each mile easing the tension from my chest. But as I turned onto the main road, my heart sank. A sudden sense of dread washed over me, and I glanced in the rearview mirror. To my horror, I saw the shadow of the house looming behind me, its windows dark and cold. It looked different now, like a sinister creature watching me depart. I wanted to forget it all, yet the unsettling feeling of being watched lingered. That night, I settled into a cheap motel, but sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear the whispers, feel the chill of the shadowy figure. I tried to convince myself it was finally over, yet as I lay wide awake, fear washed over me, realizing I had left something behind. What if the darkness of that house had followed me? Just as I began to doze off, the motel phone rang loudly, jolting me awake once again. I picked up the receiver, my hand shaking as I said hello, but all I heard was silence on the other end. My heart pounded as I hung up, feeling a cold sweat trickle down my back. The air felt thick with a newfound dread, and just as I began to calm down, a gentle knock echoed from my door. I held my breath, the weight of fear clutching at my throat. Who could possibly be there at this hour? After a moment of hesitation, I finally approached the door, peering through the peephole. To my surprise, I saw the black cat from earlier, staring directly at me. Its eyes glowed eerily in the dim light. I blinked, startled, and the cat dropped down into a crouch, its body poised as if ready to spring. My heart raced. Should I open the door? It felt like a decision that could alter everything. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated from behind me. I spun around, my mind racing.